Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 507 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Ayalon, CEO of Greek University. I'm a speaker and an author. Our fifth book just came out. It's called Perseverance and How to Be a Great Fraternity or Sorority Alumnus. So I want you to go and pick up that book on Amazon or Barnes & Noble today. We call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there is nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority leaders together, as well as college students. Fun fact, our next guest actually graduated from Cal State Long Beach. And I got to tell you, this school is absolutely amazing. The biggest thing that, gets me about Long Beach is the fraternity members, they're living on the beach. I mean, they literally have a house where if they fell off of the porch, they would land in the sand. Okay. I don't even know how they went to class. Like, I mean, why would you even leave your room if you had that set up, right? So that's the part that totally gets me. And then, like right in front of the college campus, they have these letters that spell out Long Beach. And so I always take a photo in there, and I'm usually in the O because there's a big O circle. So you can actually just sit inside, which is so cool. So our next guest is Andrea Waltz. She is co-author of the best-selling book, Go for No, which has sold over 500,000 copies since its release. As an international speaker and author, Andrea has helped countless individuals and organizations to embrace rejection as a tool for success. With her unique and counterintuitive approach, she continues to inspire people in every aspect of life, transforming how they achieve their goals. Welcome to the show, Andrea.
Hey, Mike, I am so excited to be with you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being here. We are going to have a lot of fun. I knew it right away when I saw your topic because I think it is just spot on. And we'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about Cal State Long Beach because this school is absolutely fantastic. I don't know how you went to classes because the location is so great. So why did you decide Long Beach was the right spot for your education?
So when I was in high school and trying to find the school that I wanted to go to, I'll be honest, I wasn't exactly going to be accepted at an Ivy League school. Let's just put it that way. So I needed to find a school that would take me, but B, even more importantly, my dream was to be a crime scene investigator. And Long Beach State has a amazing criminal justice program, and it was one of the first of their kind back then. Now this goes back, over 25 years ago. So I'm dating myself, but just the facts. Yeah, it had to be said. And I remember very distinctly, I called the main guy who like ran the program, and he was like, you have to come to this school. If you want to have anything to do with criminal justice, you have to come to this school. And he told me this crazy story about how he solved this crime, about how this guy was in a private plane and they couldn't figure out why it crashed into the ocean. And he deduced all of this stuff through forensic science, and it had to do with a bird crashing through the windshield and all of this crazy stuff. And I was like, okay, I'm in.
Wow, that is incredible. I'm happy I asked the question. Otherwise, I never would have known this story. I mean, that's fantastic. I love how people just end up in places, and it's obviously worked out well for you. But who would have known that you just would have connected with this guy and the whole crime scene and the whole story? That's unbelievable. Really good stuff. I love it. And so you and Richard Fenton, you wrote this book. It's called Go for No. Tell our audience, why did you decide to write this book?
Right. So after I graduated from Long Beach State, I tried to get a job in the criminal justice world. Specifically, I wanted to be a CSI, like I said.
Mhm.
And the sheriff's department was like, hey, you can intern for free for a while. And I was tired of being a starving college student, right? I was just so over it. Even though I will say there was an In-N-Out burger like 2 miles from our campus, which was fantastic. I found myself going there too often. But then I realized, okay, I'm ready to join the working world. And at the time, I had been working for a company called LensCrafters, and it was there that I met Richard. And he told me this go for no story, basically. And it's based on a sales philosophy that you shouldn't stop when you don't hear no. And basically, he was selling suits for a living in this store. This customer walked in, announced he wanted to buy an entire wardrobe of clothing. And Richard, my now husband, co-author, business partner, was the first salesman in that morning. So he got to help this customer, and he proceeded to have this great sale where he sold this guy like $1,100 worth of clothing. And after that sale, his manager came up to him and asked him this question. And the manager said, what did that customer say no to, Richard, during that sale of all the stuff that he bought? What did he say no to? And Richard said, he didn't say no to anything, actually. He wanted to buy all this stuff. So everything I laid in front of him, he bought. And then his manager asked him the really important question. He said, well, then how did you ever know he was done? And Richard didn't know how this customer was done. He basically got to $1,000, and Richard figured, well, he's not going to be spending any more money. Like, who spends more than that on clothes? It was a huge sale back in the day. This is probably equivalent of $5,000 today, right? So just think of today's dollars. And if you had a sale of 5,000, you'd kind of be like, okay, this person's probably done now. And Harold, his manager, said, I watched you sell, and you're not bad, but your fear of the word no is going to kill you. If you could just learn to get over that, I think you could become one of the great ones. And when Richard told me that story, we both worked in retail jobs, and we eventually decided to launch a company teaching this philosophy. And I've now studied this for 25 years. So I went from criminal justice to being somebody super passionate about rejection in business, but also in life.
Wow, I love that story. I absolutely love it. I'll tell you another story too, and a lot of the really good salespeople out there listening know of this company called Southwestern. Southwestern is a book company, okay, and they target college students. Okay, they really do try to get them over the summer, and they got me one summer while I was in college, and I was a New Yorker. They sent us to California. They want to send you to the opposite end of the country, so that way you're kind of hostage and you have no choice but to work and not feel tempted to go and hang out with your friends over the summer. So we go out to California and we're selling books door to door. There's nothing harder in terms of rejection. There's nothing harder than selling books door to door. I mean, I got to tell you, it is difficult. If you had an ego before coming into that, your ego will be gone by the end of the summer, I promise you. And so the way that we looked at it was that we had a map of all the houses in this community that we were residing in, and our job was to figure out where the no's were. And it's so counterintuitive. You're like, what do you mean where the no's are? Well, we knew that maybe, let's say 5%, 10% of the customers were going to say yes to us, probably more like 5%. And so the question was, where are all the no's? If we map out where all the no's are, then we know where the yes houses are. And so that's literally what we did. Was we were actually chasing all of the no's, and we were incredibly successful and made a ton of money using this philosophy. And so when I heard go for no, I'm like, that's exactly what we were going for. We were going for the no's because then it just got us that much closer to the yeses.
That's right. I love that. And that's exactly the philosophy, right? And I've heard of Southwestern, and I know that I know them very well. And yeah, they're a great sales organization. And that skill, though, Mike, and I'm sure you would agree, transfers to everything that you have to do in life. Because if you can survive that,
Right.
then you can pretty much survive anything.
You can do anything. Like, people say no to me today, within the company, and I'm like, okay, that just gets me one step closer to the client that's going to say yes. It doesn't bother me at all. Like, I don't even have that trait anymore that it bothers me when somebody says no. It doesn't bother me. It just, that's one step closer to where the yeses are. It's okay. So if I'm not hearing no, then that means I'm not doing the activity. I'm not engaging in the activity to find the yeses. So brilliant stories. I love all of it. I feel like today's college students have this major fear of making mistakes, and they have that fear of rejection because they haven't gone door to door knocking, in the summertime selling books, So why do you believe that no is actually the real key to success? Summarize it, please.
Right. So, well, there's two pieces to this, right? One is why I think today's college students are in this position in the first place. And one is exactly to your point. They don't have to face as much rejection growing up. I mean, maybe you were Girl Scout selling Girl Scout cookies, or, you were raising money for your baseball team, and so you're selling the candy bars. So you got a little bit of exposure to rejection, hopefully. But I think that having to be that scrappy kind of entrepreneurial kid goes a long way. And if you don't have that experience, then as a college student, or some kind of work experience where you learn that, then yeah, you don't have a chance to practice it. Also, a couple other things. One, technology. It's just a big factor. And you look at even dating. I mean, no one goes out to a club anymore and tries to meet people. Most dating, especially for college students, is online. So
Mhm.
you have people hiding behind technology. That's just a fact. The other thing too is I think from a social media standpoint, what I have seen is that because everything's curated and because it's like, hey, look at my amazing vacation in Cabo, and everything's kind of so perfect, and people take 87 pictures just so they can get the one that they can post on Instagram. So there's this idea of perfection that everybody is chasing and everybody wants to put out into the world. So you've got all of these factors. You've got technology, you've got wanting to be perfect, and if you are a student who's driven, if you are kind of a type A, I had terrible grades in high school, but when I went to Long Beach State, I was like completely committed. I was like, I am not getting out of this school with anything less than a magna cum laude, which I got. So I was like totally driven. And when you have that type of personality, then it's even worse because you don't want to fail. You have that perfectionistic tendency. So we've got all of that as the background. And then you layer in just the stress and the pressure to perform and all of those things. And so as a result, I think that's why college students have these fears, and it's a tremendous amount of pressure. So what's the secret? Well, the secret is doing exactly what you said, Mike. It's putting yourself in a position where you're going to fail. It's being willing to hear no in whatever it is. One of the things I would encourage students to do is go out for a job that's like crazy ridiculous that you'll never get, just to get the experience. Not that this is a radical piece of advice, but just to get the experience and to get the no, experience the no. And I think the more you do that, then the more you have a chance to numb yourself.
Yeah, that's so interesting to me. It's also interesting you mentioned the technology piece because I think you're absolutely right. I think people are hiding behind the technology if they're just swiping right and left for a date, right? Then they never really get to experience that rejection of actually personally walking up to you at a bar and you're like, Mike, I'm not going out with you. So like, you know, you don't get that piece, and so therefore, you're just kind of deathly scared of hearing that rejection, hearing that no. And I kind of relate it to like my daughter. She's incredibly bright. She is a freshman now at Rice University in Houston, one of the top 10 colleges in the country. And I don't think she's ever heard no before in her life. Like everything she's ever asked for, whether it be a job or what have you, a professor, whatever, they all just say yes to her. So she's preconditioned to always hearing yes. And I remember that she was applying for a job at Starbucks and they basically said no because she didn't have any experience working in any kind of real capacity. And so they said no. And I think that was like her first taste of rejection. And she was obviously disappointed when she came home, but I was actually glad that she got that no, especially before leaving for college, because I was like, you know what? She's going to hear this in the real world. I mean, this is inevitably going to happen. And I'd rather her experience it as a young person and then figure out how to overcome it. So, why should she not take that personally when she heard no?
Yeah, yeah. Well, and I know it seems like that's a very personal no. And even dating can be, obviously it's very personal. It's like, no, they're literally rejecting me. They're literally rejecting my appearance, something about me, whatever. And or skills, or if you created a piece of art, they're literally rejecting that. We have to remember though, and it is a tough thing, that no isn't personal even when it's about you. And that seems like so counterintuitive. Like, well, no, it's completely about me, so how could it not be personal? But it really is all about the preference of the person. And so you walk into Baskin Robbins 31 flavors ice cream and you decide to go for a scoop of chocolate. Like the vanilla and the strawberry aren't sitting over there going like, I can't believe she didn't pick me. I'm so depressed. It's like, no, this is the customer's preference. This has nothing to do with the other 30 ice cream flavors. It's just that that person prefers that one. And so we have to get out of our own heads. I have to tell this story really quickly. One of my favorite rejections is as an author, and you can totally relate to this, we love to read raving reviews about our books.
Sure.
True story.
Sure.
So I go on one time. This is not a Go for No. This actually was another book. And I go on and I see this 1-star review, and I'm like, oh, that doesn't feel good, right? Rejection literally stings. Research shows it can be actually painful. So this stung. And I started reading the review, and it was like really harsh. It was like, this book isn't worth the paper it's printed on, and blah, blah, blah. And I went, wow, oh my gosh, this is terrible. So then I got out of my own head and I thought, you know what? I really need to step back and do what I teach people. And I thought, what are all the times where I really didn't like something? Like it didn't sit well with me, whatever. Movies that I've walked out on where I was like, this movie is stupid. I'm not even going to sit through the rest of this movie, right? I get up and I walk out. And I remember I did that with a movie called Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, which was like an Academy Award winning movie, but it just wasn't my cup of tea. So anyway, I write this person on Amazon back when you could do that. And I said, hey, I totally get it. Thanks for trying to read the book. I get it. Sometimes things don't resonate, but I appreciate, your opinion, whatever. Have a good week. And I just let it go. And it felt pretty good to be able to just say, it's okay that this person hated the book. Like, that's up to him. Not everybody has to like it. So we really have to work hard at that. The funny thing, though, is that this person actually ended up changing their rating. Months later, I went back and looked, and he said that he went back, reread the book, and actually it was pretty good, and changed it to a 4-star, which I
Wow.
wasn't even expecting, didn't even matter. But it was just a really good lesson for me, like, just get out of my own head and try to remember times where I don't like things.
Yeah. That's fantastic. The other thing that I think about too is the celebration of rejection. There's this viral YouTube video that's out there. It's on tinkering. And basically, it's a bunch of kids that get together with like hammers and nails, and they build something, and they can build whatever they want, and they build it, and hopefully it works. And sometimes it doesn't work. Like whatever they build like fails miserably. And instead of being upset that whatever they were intending to build didn't work out the way that they wanted, they actually have like a party and they celebrate that rejection. They literally have a party and they're like, yay, we failed. So, why do you suggest that celebrating rejection is actually what we should be doing? And what's the impact of that on the team when we celebrate rejection?
Yeah, it's such a great question. Well, first of all, just it's a total way to reprogram your mindset, because normally when we get rejected, it's like, oh, we're depressed. We feel ashamed and embarrassed. And I think that shame and embarrassment is a big thing. So as a team, to actually celebrate it and have fun is really powerful. In fact, the New York Times ran a story last year. You'll really like this, where students were having rejection parties. In fact, there was a class in Los Angeles at a school, and the students all came with all of their rejections from all of the schools that they had applied to, and they were talking about how this one senior, she was like, she held up all of her rejection letters, and apparently they shred them. But she held up her one. She got rejected from Princeton, Dartmouth, the University of Rochester, like Columbia, all these great schools. And then at the very end of it, so she has all these rejections, and then she said, "Oh, but also I didn't get rejected from Harvard, so I'm going to Harvard." Everybody laughed. But that is the powerful thing about celebrating rejection, is you take away that embarrassment and you say, you know what? I tried. Like, look at all these schools I applied to.
Yeah.
Even though I got rejected, one, you're going to get accepted somewhere. And two, it just shows you're in action. It just shows you're in activity. And that goes a long way in just changing your mindset. So, because the whole idea is, like, why even celebrate it? It's to keep you in the game. It's just to keep you going. And if you notice basketball players, when they do free throws, they always, no matter whether it goes in or not, they always do like a little high five, little hit hands here and there.
Right.
And what is the signal to that? Like, even if it doesn't go in, you see it all the time. And it's okay. It's cool. Like, no big deal. Shake it off. You got this. Like, just boom. And I think that happens a lot in sports, where people are always kind of trying to edify people when the shot doesn't go in. And so that's the point of celebration.
Yeah. I like that. And also, I think there's a certain sense of like everything happens for a reason too. I kind of believe in that a little bit. So the
Mhm.
rejection parties are kind of interesting about colleges. I think about my own daughter and some of the schools, the lofty schools like the Harvards that she didn't get into, but she got into Rice. And I think there was a reason for that. And in talking to her now, she's happier than ever. They wanted her. They felt like she was a really good match for the curriculum that they have on that campus. And it turns out they were right. Like there was something in her application that they saw that said this student is going to excel in this very unique environment that they have at Rice. Rice is not like other institutions. I mean, it's almost like Hogwarts. I mean, it really, really is. But the bottom line is that they saw something in her application that said this student will be successful. And sure enough, I mean, she is just blossoming there. And so I think there's something to that as well. But just fascinating. I love the idea of the rejection parties. I think that is just a great way to look at it. A lot of the students who are listening right now, they need to set goals, whether it be for themselves, whether it be for their organization. We're coming up on, New Year's Eve is going to be, a couple of months away, and that we love to set goals in the beginning of the year. So, what's a new way of setting goals that will keep these students inspired to keep going and to have more fun?
Okay, so this is a very counterintuitive process, and for all the high achievers out there who are good goal setters, this is going to freak them out, but it is actually really fun. So you look at like what the goal is that you want to achieve, and you reverse engineer it, and you set a goal for the number of no's it's going to take to get there. And so so going back to kind of the dating analogy, it's kind of funny. Like there's all this stuff out there online about how like try to get rejected by 100 girls, try to have 100 girls turn you down. And if you do that, like you just numb yourself to no. Well, this is kind of that just in a reverse case scenario. So like in our business, when my husband and I launched our company, we set traditional yes goals. We tried to get yeses, and we would try to get like 4 sales a month. And then we said, wait a minute, what if we just had 100 companies say no to us each month? Like, don't worry about the yeses, just set a no goal. Try to get 100 companies to say no to us. And then we had more business than we knew what to do with. So the whole idea is to set a no goal and to kind of reverse engineer it to figure out what that goal should be. So you might say like, I have a goal to make X dollars, or I have a goal to achieve this thing. I'm willing to get rejected to try to achieve this thing 20 times. Right. It could be I'm going to send out, maybe it's going to get your master's degree or something. I'm going to send out X number of applications. I'm going to get X number of no's in order to get that yes. And so it's just a fun way to set goals. So instead of completely paying attention to, okay, the yeses, how many yeses did I get? You just stay in action by trying to get those no's.
Amazing. I absolutely love it. It's so counterintuitive, but I think you're right. I think it's the way to actually hit your goals. It's totally wild. Talk about persistent statistics. What exactly is that? How is that helpful?
Yeah. So, a couple things about that. One, in the world of sales, which is where I come from, and for everybody listening, let's just be real. Like, it doesn't matter what field or endeavor you go into. If you study, just like we were talking about Southwestern, if
Yeah.
you study or learn to become a good quote unquote salesperson, even if you're not in sales or negotiator, I mean, those skills are forever. And one of the statistics shows that 44% of all salespeople give up after getting one no. One no, they just give up. Now, the interesting thing is that continues the next statistic is like I think it's like 28% more give up after getting the second no, and then 18% more give up after getting the third no, and then 12% more give up after giving the fourth no. So you add all of this up, and it basically what it means is that at the end of the day, I think it comes to like 90-ish% of people give up, staggering after they get no after no. But from a customer standpoint, 60% of customers say no 4 times. So people are continuously just falling out of the process. They hear no once, they hear no twice, they give up. But from a customer standpoint, they say no up to 4 times before finally saying yes. So the persistent statistics thing is kind of a sales philosophy, but it's just good to remember that when you're out there going after whatever you want and you get that first no, be creative. Like figure another way to ask, or maybe it's a different person that you need to go to, or maybe you need to regroup and ask a different way. There's so many ways to take a no and turn it into a positive and learn from it or figure out another way to go around. So just remember, in general, the persistence statistics is all about you're going to get no a lot. It doesn't mean it's the end.
Yeah. It would be really interesting for you to kind of talk to those folks at Southwestern and see if they're tracking kind of success rates for their graduates, quote unquote, people who worked with them over college. Because I'm telling you, I think you're absolutely onto something here. And I'm just wondering if there's a correlation, if we can actually prove that, experiencing no over and over again as part of the business model as a young person, does that create more successful employees or entrepreneurs or what have you? I'd be interested to see what Southwestern has in terms of data surrounding that, because I do think that there's something about their business model that aligns with your book and with your methodology. And so studying that over a long period of time, and Southwestern has been in business for decades, to track that and see what does that mean for success for their graduates. I think that would be a really, really fascinating conversation and research. Maybe that's the next thing I'll research after I'm done with my dissertation here. Maybe we'll do some
Yes.
research on that. I think that would be really, really fascinating. One step further, how does hearing no? How does that also strengthen our connection with family and friends?
Yeah. So one of the fun things I do is, in fact, I'm doing one in just a couple weeks, is I do an Ask Your Ask Off challenge. So this is a 7-day challenge where I send out an email to the people on my email list, and it's a real low fee to get in, and people ask as much as they can for 7 days. Like it's just practice your asking skills, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And a lot of it is like personal type asks, and it makes you mindful of needing to kind of express like what you want. Like sometimes in our lives, it's like we think my partner isn't, they don't do what I want, they don't this or that. But did you really ask? Like, are you really asking? Or maybe it's a family member, or maybe it's a friend, like they don't, I would really like to go have dinner with them. So like, yeah, text or call or whatever and ask them.
Mhm.
And that's the power of how you can strengthen relationships. In fact, I remember I had one woman who was in a challenge, and it was more of a sales challenge. And she told me that she hadn't talked to her grandfather in like years. I don't know what the situation was. I don't know what personal issues and falling out and all of that, but she was really scared to call, and she thought maybe he would reject her, but she wanted to rekindle the relationship during the challenge. She did, which was amazing. So it's like that's, I think, how no can build relationships and continue to strengthen relationships, because it forces you to be a better communicator.
100% agree with that wholeheartedly. And I think this is just an enlightening conversation. I hope the college students listening got a lot out of it, because there's just some real gold here in terms of accomplishing your goals, what it's going to take to do that, and the impact of no. I think that's fantastic work. All right. So I know you're in Orlando, and I know, man, oh man, Florida has had their share of natural disasters this year. And I want to support all of the restaurants that are there and make sure they stay in business, because there's some great food in Orlando. So the next time I'm in Orlando, where should I go for a great meal?
Okay, Mike. Well, two things. One, if you are you a sushi lover?
Oh, yes, of course.
Okay. The sushi place that you have to go to in Orlando, they have two locations now. And he's opening actually some that are more like more to go oriented, like real casual.
Mhm.
But it's called Kabuki Sushi.
Oh, nice.
Kabuki Sushi is the place to go in Orlando. It will ruin you. I'm just telling you, it'll ruin you. You will struggle to eat sushi anywhere else after that. It's just absolutely amazing. And fun thing for anybody listening who comes into Orlando during the Epcot, we have the theme parks here.
Sure.
I was just at Epcot last week, and they have the Food and Wine Festival. And so Epcot's kind of the adult park, and they've got booths in their World Showcase. And so whether it's Italy or France or Morocco or Greek or whatever, they've got, and Mexico, like probably 40 different food booths. And you go and you pay like $6 or $7 and you get this amazing little taste of something. And they got wines and they've got beers, and you just literally eat your way around the world, and it's so fun.
That sounds perfect. We have the same taste in food, by the way. That sounds absolutely great. And you're having drinks in every food location too, which is just out of this world. So it's really, really good. Kabuki sushi sounds exactly what I need, by the way, because I'm living in Nashville, Tennessee. And let me tell you, any landlocked area, this is not a place you go for sushi. So I need to go to Orlando so I can get some really good sushi. And, what I'm getting is like gas station quality sushi. It's not good. It's flown
Mm,
in, and I don't even know when it was caught. It was caught like 3 weeks ago. I don't even know. So, so I'll definitely check that out when I'm in Orlando. So, all right. So, if
okay.
our listeners, if they want to bring you in to speak on their college campus, if they want to go and buy your book, it's called Go for No. Where should they be going in order to connect with you?
They should come to goforno.com. And the main reason they should come to goforno.com, well, for all the reasons you said, but also we've got a fun quiz. We call it the No Quotient Quiz. So you can come and take a little test, as if you students don't get tested enough already. Come and take the quiz, and it will help you determine what your mindset is in relationship to hearing no, failure, rejection, and all of that.
I love it. Go take the quiz. It's goforno.com. Check out all of the things, including the book. I really think that this is critical. I mean, not everybody necessarily wants to go and sell books door to door over the summer in college. But if you don't want to do that, and I would say that's great practice for the rest of your life. But if you don't want to do that, at least go and buy the book, Go for No, because I think it's going to teach you quite a lot about what it's going to take in order to be successful. So, Andrea, thank you so much for all of your work. Thank you for sharing all of this great information with our audience today.
Thanks, Mike. Super fun.
Super fun. And thank you to our listeners. If you enjoyed this conversation with Andrea from Go for No, I want you to like it and I want you to share it with other college students. And thank you for checking us out at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. We'll see you next time.